Hello there, wellness entrepreneur. Welcome back. The McLeans, we just got back from a week-long camping trip. It was so much fun. I definitely unplugged. It's kind of funny. We've been going to the same campsite. It's not too far from our home, but it provides a very different staycation experience that we really love because we love our Southern California beaches, and it's in a different town, just about 35 miles north. And we've been going to the same campground, and my husband and I's phone, they don't work at the campground. It's by a military base. So the Wi-Fi is really, and even cellular signal is really bad. And so for years, I've been going to this campground and just thinking that there's no Wi Fi or cellular service at all. And come to find out, we had some friends visit us there because it was my husband's birthday and they came in. We had a barbecue and their phones work and they just had a different phone company. So actually, there is capabilities for Wi-Fi and cellular service, but my husband and I did not, and I did not bring my laptop. So it was nice, even though potentially we could have been connected into the world, that we weren't. I got a nice mental break, and we definitely do some glamping style of going into town and ordering food and going to the beach. And the area has a really lovely community pool that my daughter and a friend came along this time, love to swim at, and we take showers there and everything. And of course, the campground has showers too. But we had fun getting dirty and just being out in nature. It's one of the few campsites in Southern California that's not a parking lot and there's actually trees and some nature. My Rochester, upstate New York definitely comes out, especially in summer where I really want to see a lot of greenery and unplug with less people around and just get out into what I feel like is the woods or even just the ocean and the beach and in the water. We have to get in the water. We are very much water people. So we had a really nice time, and now I'm back getting plugged in. Started right away into the week at 8 a.m. with the health and wellness board exam. So I'll find out in a few months how that went for me. But I found myself rushing into the week from all this. And I was like, wait a minute here. This feeling of being behind before the week even started, because I started the week off, spending the morning at this board exam and then coming into the office and starting my week with this feeling of behind and wanting to rush into the week. And it's one of my patterns that I'm aware of. And most of my life, truthfully, I've felt behind. I went into graduate school later in age. I think I was the second oldest in the classroom. And I mean, looking back, I was not that old. I was 28, but when you're around a bunch of younger 20-year-olds, I did feel old. My business coach, who I've been with now for close to 5 years, is much younger than me. She just turned 30, and I'm in my late 40s. And so sometimes, even in the business world, I feel late and behind and old. On Instagram, I've been on there since the beginning, and I've had posts that have popped off at 50,000 views and many shares and likes, but I haven't gone true viral at a million views or more, and gained hundreds or thousands overnight of followers overnight, even though I've been on there for years, over a decade now. And sometimes in my day to day, I just always feel behind. And that is the point of this episode. If you too feel behind, if you feel old, oh, I want to tell you one other area that's important to me too, as well, that comes up in my patterning is my planning for retirement. I feel late. You've also heard me mention on the podcast how I also have house shame and how I feel behind in my house. Truthfully, I did not think I'd be in this house. We've been in this house for 12 or 14 years now. And I thought we would have quote unquote upgraded our house by this time. I feel like we're in a bachelor beach style house, which actually fits us really well. But sometimes my brain likes to tell me how I'm behind there as well. And the reason why I'm saying this is because as a practitioner, as an entrepreneur, you might relate to some of that, all of that, or just one of those. And in your day to day, you might have a feeling that you're too old or behind, and it can feel defeating. And truthfully, that feeling of being behind and rushing, that can actually slow us down and make us even more behind. Or it creates an unsustainable business that you can't keep up for many years to come. And I want you to be here to have the business of your dreams and the lifestyle, be able to go on vacation and out of town and unplug, even if you feel behind like I do, because that's what will enable you to actually grow faster. And truthfully, one thing that we can say for our society here, especially in the States and certain European countries and even in Canada, is that with entrepreneurship, we do have the possibility where things can change quickly. And if anything, we're being shown that right now, live in the moment on Instagram with the Yap challenge and Jessie Jean, how she, what can seem like popped out of nowhere and is an overnight success, showing you that it can happen very quickly. But at the same time, also showing you that she was building to this over time as well. She wasn't an overnight success. She actually had another business that was doing quite well, where she developed a lot of skills and then took it into a new handle and a new purpose. So, this episode is here to remind you that sometimes the path to the destination that you're wanting, whether it's to make an impact with more people, helping more people with their health and wellness, whether it's wanting more income and revenue for your family and upgrading your lifestyle, whatever your dreams and goals are, sometimes the path and how long it takes to get there is much different than what we think. Our expectation of what we think and how it'll go in the timeline is often a mismatch with what happens in the process. And because of that mismatch, it can derail us, right? It can cause all kinds of mindset issues or even make us feel defeated. And we quit potentially right before there's an opportunity for big growth. So let's bring this into some practicalities. So, for example, before I left out of town, I had a 100K blueprint call. And on that one call, I had one client tell me that one of her Instagram posts hit 35,000 views and brought in 200 new followers. And another client had hit almost 3,000 views and brought in 80 new followers. And someone else said on the call, who had just started Instagram, that she was feeling frustrated because she felt like she was doing a lot of things and posting every day, and she wasn't getting that kind of growth, no new followers. And I think sometimes in business, when we see other people with what it seems like they're hitting big growths and big changes and big numbers, and we're not, we can feel like we're doing something but wrong, or that we're behind and that we won't ever get there. And the truth is, the two clients that had achieved success and brought in these new followers and got these views, they had been trialing and tweaking and erring and failing for some time. They'd been on Instagram much longer than my client that had just started Instagram. So it wasn't comparing apples to apples. Plus, they're different practitioners coming to Instagram with different skill sets in different niches who communicate in different ways. So it's not even comparing apples to oranges. It's almost like comparing apples to tofu, a different type of food completely. And you can't really compare apple and tofu, because you're going to have an apple when you're craving fruit and those nutrients, and you're going to have tofu when you're wanting more protein, for example. They have different purposes and different intentions. But I saw my client's face and I knew how she was feeling because I felt there so many times in my life, felt behind, like I was doing it too slow. Even in the online space, when my very first online program was an online membership. And my very first launch, I was in Stu McLaren's membership program. And this was almost a decade ago now. And I followed his launch process to the T, to the best of my capabilities, as much as possible. I even had a customized membership site made. So I've maybe dropped about $3,000 to $5,000 when I had my brick and mortar at the time into learning how to do a membership and then having my membership built with no viability, knowing if my offer or my product was viable. But I just went with it. And my very first launch, I had 10 people buy, and I had a deal where if they purchased for a year, they got a special, founding members rate for a year. So they purchased for a whole entire year and got a special founding members rate. And so it brought in a few $1,000s. And I remember thinking a couple things at that time. I didn't celebrate success at all. First of all, even though that was a huge win to go from nothing, just this idea, and get people in there and make, a good percentage of my money back and have a viable offer, could take people through it. But my mind went to, I have a small audience. I have no idea how I'm going to replicate this because I feel like I saturated my audience, which could have been true at the time. I never gave myself a chance to test that out because I sabotaged myself and quickly moved on to the Heal Your Low Back Blueprint program, an online program that was either independent study or could purchase one to one and get that with me, virtual one to one and get that program with me. But I talked myself out of it because I was comparing the 10 people that I got in my launch with the many successful launches that Stu McLaren's program had, where people for their founding members launch had 50, or they would make $50,000. And here I was, making a few thousand and only had 10. And I thought it was a failure when it really was success. And the only reason why I was really considering it was a failure was because of this comparison of how I was behind and not enough. And had I stayed the course of just building my audience and launching it again and making it better and keeping it going, I probably could have been further along in my online program efforts versus starting completely over now, building out the Heal Your Low Back Blueprint program and then having to market that program to my audience while still fulfilling on my delivery for the membership for the next year. Consumed a lot of my time and it really slowed me down. Versus if I had just stayed the course and realized that my expectation might have might have not been actually a realistic expectation in terms of the timeline, and because of my audience size and the ecosystem of my business, of what I had and my skill sets and what I had done so far, that there was a mismatch. If I had maybe realized that, I could have stayed the course and launched again, but I didn't know. And so I started over and it cost me a lot of time. So here's what I want you to realize. When you have expectations of a timeline and what should be happening in a certain amount of time and it's not happening for you, I want you to take a pause right there and have the awareness and say, oh, if you're seeing small progress, whether that's wanting to hit 10K months and all you're seeing is new consults coming in the door, is looking at that small measure of progress. If it's just more views on your reels for the first time, but no new followers yet, but more views, or more consults coming in the door, not more yeses and revenue, but just more consults coming in. Or if you're posting more or emailing more and you're actually having people respond to the emails more, that's a sign of progress. I want you to look at those measures of progress to show yourself that you're on track. that there's just a mismatch between the expectation of when you thought something would happen and how you thought something would happen and the reality of what is actually happening. Right. And then it comes to finding a certain level of acceptance in your body and yourself, and maybe some self compassion too, of forgiving yourself for the timeline that you thought it should happen. And if there's any failures and disappointments and the learnings you can take from that. Because the truth is, you're not behind. There is no right schedule. A lot of us were taught in school there's the right protocol to do this. It's black or white, evidence based, wrong or right. And it's not true for entrepreneurship. There's no exact protocol, there's no exact timeline. It can feel like you're failing completely and are never going to make it. And then the next morning, you wake up to a whole bunch of wins. For example, this launch that I just had, my biggest launch yet, I had markers of progress. So I kept going forward where I had successful launches. My revenue was growing. It wasn't at some exponential rate. Again, like sometimes I just grow at a slow snail's pace, and that's kind of my thing. I'm just a little older and a little behind. I don't know what even could be the average, right? But when you look at that's what my brain makes me feel, the older and the slower one, right? But I kept going because I had coaches to help me. I have this awareness about myself that I'll sabotage if I do feel that I'm too behind and too slow or failing and not getting it right. So I just kept going. I had no crystal ball to show me that this launch that I had, I would knock it out of the park, where I had the goal of having 9 people join and actually 15 joined plus new one-to-one people on top of that. I had no crystal ball to say that could have happened, but I had a belief that at some point I would figure it out. And I have this belief about myself too, like with my house, is finding acceptance and love for the neighborhood and the community we're in. For sure, we love my daughter's school and her friends and the life we've built here, and being so close to the beach. There's so many things to be grateful for, and we're so privileged in so many aspects. And at the same time, feeling a little disappointment that, okay, it's not the house of my dreams. There's definitely some things to be fixed and worked out in the house. And I can have acceptance of that and still hold the space for my dream that things can change quickly. And maybe at some point, I'll have the house where I can, for example, my dad's here visiting right now, and we went to the beach yesterday and it was a lovely day. And then we came back to the house and we were having dinner, and I was like, yeah, it'd be nice if we had a outdoor patio to have food on. And I had this vision of, the candlelight outdoor with fairy lights all around, with trees all around, vision that our house just does not, we don't have an outdoor patio right now, but I can still hold the vision for that maybe someday that'll happen. I'll tell you how I got into physical therapy school was not the way that I expected. I didn't even expect to go to physical therapy school. I had a long detour through massaging for many years, which I loved and I still do. But I wanted to learn more and work my schedule better so I didn't feel pressured to work Saturdays, because Saturdays and the weekends and the evenings are big massage days. Knowing what I know about business now, the work I could have done at the time was more around my schedule and holding boundaries and finding the right clients who would work with my schedule. But at the time, I felt like going back to school was the better way around. I did want to learn a lot more. But the path of how I got to where I am and all I've gone through to achieve the success that I am now is definitely not the path I would have expected or dreamed for myself. But yet, here I am. And would I regret doing it any other way? Sure. Maybe if I look back and look at the lessons learned, there's some things I may have done differently, but I don't regret the choices that I made. And I don't regret the learnings that I did learn for going through my detours, because they've made me who I am now. And It's created the business I have now and the amazing clients that I work with now and this beautiful life that I have now. So I don't regret the path of how I got here. One of my coaches, she says, we can set our goals, but we want to let go of the how we get there. I never would have thought that I'd be working online, coming from being such a manual practitioner and manual focused and nervous system and energetics focused. I never would have even imagined or considered going online until I got my diagnosis of Lynch syndrome and cancer, which never could have predicted. And had I fought against that, well, that would have caused so much more pain and suffering. Instead, I let go of the wheel and surrendered to the process, which is not an easy or comfortable thing to do. I definitely went through moments of darkness, we'll call them. But often in business, we go through phases to get to where we're going, and we don't often recognize these phases or these small markers of progress. And I want you to be aware of them because if you keep going, you will get there. So there's typically a building phase where the whole job is you're inputting a lot of time and energy, and you don't necessarily seem like you're getting anything back from it. And it could be going to a lot of networking events. It could be posting on social media. It could be reaching out to a lot of yoga studios to try to get in for a workshop. It could be launching your first online program and having no clients in it. And it feels slightly delusional or even insane to keep going. But if you do, it leads to the next phase, the testing and trialing error phase, where things start working, but you don't really know why yet. You just will have some small markers of progress. And often as entrepreneurs, we miss those and we tell ourselves it's not working. And that is where a lot of people give up and they change course, they detour, and they miss the next phase, the harvest phase, where all this effort starts to produce 5 times those markers of progress. It starts producing the bigger results. And if you're looking from the outside, like if someone new comes into my world, especially they might be seeing the new podcast, the Unbound website, they might assume that it's always been like this for me, that I had an audience of 13,000 followers, that my posts just naturally get shares and saves and comments. They didn't see me. If you look on my Instagram right now, it shows that I've posted over 3,000 posts and I've archived hundreds of those. They didn't see my flops. They didn't see the post that got 3 likes and that looked horrible and didn't make sense because I was in the practitioner mind and I wasn't connecting the dots for my audience. They didn't see my failed online program launches. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, when we're looking into other businesses, that's what we're seeing of other businesses. And we don't see, it's not out there in the real world a lot of times of other businesses building phases of things and testing phases of things. So I want to remind you that we all go through this. It's just sometimes private, not public. And that's okay because it can be very vulnerable. And so in my programs, whether I work one to one or in the group program with my clients, I'm always helping them track their small measures of progress to help them stay the course so they can keep going, so they can move from the building to the testing phase, so they can get to the harvest phase and seeing those results. And so if you don't have a coach right now, then make sure you're doing this for yourself so you keep going. Because telling yourself that you're behind or that you should be somewhere in the journey when you're not, that'll actually slow the process down. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today. Keep going. I hope you're having a wonderful summer Now that the rebrand is revealed and it's out there, I would love to hear your feedback. Leave me a review on the podcast, the Well Beyond Practice podcast. And on Instagram, you can go find me at Well Unbound. It's going to take me a little bit to get used to these names, even though I spent so much time trying to create them and think of them. All right. So follow me on those places, leave me a message, and I'd love to hear what you think of them. And please keep going. And if you feel stuck, just reach out to me. I'm always here and happy to help. All right. See you next week. Bye for now.